The air was thick with humidity as Rahul's taxi pulled up to the Grand Regency Hotel. The sky was overcast, casting a gloomy shadow over the already somber building. It was supposed to be a routine business trip, a chance to close a deal in a sleepy coastal town. Rahul had expected a quiet, uneventful stay, but the moment he arrived, he sensed something was off. The hotel, however, was anything but routine. Its once grand facade was now faded and peeling, a shadow of its former glory. The building seemed to whisper tales of better days long gone. The lobby was eerily quiet, the air thick with the smell of dust and decay. The furniture, covered in a fine layer of dust, hinted at years of neglect. Behind the aged wooden counter stood the receptionist, a gaunt man with eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 untold stories. His presence added to the unsettling atmosphere. He handed Rahul the key to room 308 with a hesitant pause, a flicker of something unreadable in his gaze. It was as if he wanted to say something but decided against it. Rahul, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling that had settled upon him, made his way to the old creaky elevator. The sound of the elevator doors closing echoed in the empty lobby. Each floor he passed seemed to get colder, the air heavier. The dim lighting inside the elevator added to the growing sense of unease. The numbers on the dimly lit panel flickered as the elevator groaned its way up to the 3rd floor. Each groan felt like a warning, a sign to turn back. As he stepped out onto the worn carpet of the hallway, Rahul couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into a place untouched by time, a place where secrets lingered in the shadows. The silence was almost deafening, amplifying his every footstep. Stepping into room 308, Rahul was met with a musty smell, like old books left undisturbed for decades. The air was thick with dust, particles dancing in the dim light that filtered through the heavy curtains. The heavy curtains were drawn, casting the room in an unsettling twilight. It felt as though the room was trapped in a perpetual state of dusk, never quite reaching daylight. There was a chill in the air, a dampness that clung to his skin despite the humid weather outside. The walls seemed to sweat, adding to the oppressive atmosphere. He tried to switch on the lamp on the bedside table, but it flickered weakly before dying completely, plunging the room into darkness. The sudden loss of light made the shadows seem to grow, enveloping the room. A shiver ran down his spine. Rahul fumbled for his phone, using its flashlight to navigate the unfamiliar space. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing more of the room's eerie details. The room was surprisingly large, with high ceilings and heavy furniture that seemed to absorb the light. Each piece of furniture looked like it had a story to tell, adding to the room's mysterious aura. There was a sense of age, of stories whispered and secrets kept. The room felt like a time capsule, preserving moments long forgotten. It wasn't malevolent, not exactly, but there was a definite unease that hung in the air, a feeling that he was not alone. The room seemed to breathe, almost alive with its own presence. The first night was the worst. Rahul lay awake, listening to the sounds of the old building settling around him. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows in their frames. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the pipes sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes peering at him from the darkness. He told himself it was just his imagination, the product of a long day and the unsettling atmosphere of the hotel. But deep down, a primal fear whispered that something was amiss. Something was different in room 308. Something that sent shivers down his spine and made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. As the days passed, the strange occurrences continued. Objects would move slightly, just enough to be noticeable. The television would switch on by itself, always to the same static channel. The faint scent of jasmine, out of place in the musty room, would waft in and out without explanation. Rahul tried to rationalize these events, to attribute them to faulty wiring or his own sleep-deprived imagination. But as the incidents grew more frequent and more bizarre, a seed of doubt began to grow in his mind. He started to feel a constant presence in the room, a feeling of being watched. The air grew thick with an unseen energy, a palpable tension that seemed to press down on him, suffocating him. One night, as Rahul lay in bed trying to ignore the growing sense of dread, he heard it, a whisper, soft and indistinct, coming from the far corner of the room. He sat bolt upright, his heart pounding in his chest. The whisper came again, closer this time, a low, mournful sound that seemed to seep into his bones. Terror gripped him as he strained to hear, to make sense of the whispers that seemed to dance on the edge of his perception. He couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable, filled with sorrow, with a deep, lingering sadness that sent chills down his spine. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Rahul began to search for the source of the whispers. He checked every corner, every nook and cranny of the room, but found nothing. Then, as he ran his hand under the mattress, his fingers brushed against something hard and flat. He pulled it out, a small leather-bound notebook, its pages yellowed with age. The notebook was filled with spidery handwriting, the ink faded but the words still legible. As Rahul read, his blood ran cold. The entries spoke of a woman, her despair, her loneliness, and her growing madness within the confines of room 308. The final entry, scrawled in a shaky hand, spoke of an entity, a presence that had come to claim her, to trap her forever within the walls of the room. The discovery of the notebook was like opening a Pandora's box of terror. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. The temperature in the room plummeted, a bone-chilling cold that seemed to seep into his very core. Objects began to move with a life of their own, the lamp swaying violently, the curtains billowing inwards as if caught in a sudden gust of wind. Rahul was paralyzed with fear, his mind struggling to comprehend the horrors unfolding around him. He was trapped in a nightmare, a waking horror that threatened to consume him entirely. He knew with chilling certainty that he was not alone in room 308. Panic surged through Rahul, a primal instinct to flee from the unseen terror that had gripped room 308. He scrambled to his feet, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He fumbled for the doorknob, his hand shaking so violently that he could barely turn it. The door swung open, revealing the dimly lit hallway beyond. He didn't waste a second, didn't dare look back. He ran, his footsteps echoing in the silent hallway, the feeling of unseen eyes burning into his back. He didn't stop running until he reached the relative safety of the lobby, collapsing onto a dusty armchair, his chest heaving. The hotel manager, a portly man with a perpetually surprised expression, listened to Rahul's frantic tale with a mixture of skepticism and concern. His eyes darted around nervously, as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows at any moment. When Rahul finished, his voice trembling with residual fear, the manager simply sighed and shook his head. It was clear that this was not the first time he had heard such a story. Room 308, he said, his voice low and grave, has always been troubled. The weight of his words hung in the air, adding to the already thick tension. There have been stories, whispers of a tragedy, a woman who met an unfortunate end within those walls. Her presence, they say, lingers, a silent witness to her own sorrow. He paused, his eyes flickering towards the stairs leading to the third floor, a strange mix of sadness and fear in their depths. It was as if he could see the past tragedies replaying in his mind. Some say, he continued, his voice barely a whisper, that her spirit remains trapped within those walls, searching for release. The words sent a shiver down Rahul's spine. He left the sentence unfinished, the unspoken question hanging heavy in the air. The silence that followed was almost deafening, filled with unspoken fears and unanswered questions. Was it a restless spirit, a psychological break, or simply the tricks of an old, decaying building? The questions swirled in Rahul's mind, each more unsettling than the last. Rahul left the Grand Regency Hotel that very night, his mind a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, even as he walked away. He would never know for sure what transpired in room 308, but the experience left an indelible mark on his soul, a chilling reminder that some doors are best left unopened. The memory of that night would haunt him forever, a ghost of its own. Blackwater Woods, a place of whispering pines and dappled sunlight, held a darkness at its heart. Lily Evans, 10 years old, vanished on a Tuesday. 1 minute she pushed on the rusty swing set at the edge of the woods, the next, gone. The town searched. They combed the woods, hope fading with each passing hour. Posters with Lily's smiling face appeared on every lamppost, a constant reminder of the tragedy that had befallen them. Blackwater, once peaceful, held its breath, a community united in fear and despair. Weeks bled into months. The investigation stalled. Lily Evans became a ghost, her laughter echoing only in the memories of those who loved her. Then Eric Hawthorne disappeared, a young hiker drawn to the woods' solitude. The town, already wounded, felt a fresh wave of terror. Whispers of curses and vengeful spirits replaced logical explanations. The once familiar woods transformed into a menacing presence, casting long, sinister shadows over Blackwater's heart. The fear, palpable now, seeped into every corner of their lives. Break came unexpectedly. A park ranger, following an unmarked trail, stumbled upon a clearing. Hidden beneath a thicket of thorny vines lay a rusted metal grate barely visible. Beneath it, a ladder leading down into the earth. A cold, dank smell wafted up, the stench of decay clinging to the air. The ranger's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing a narrow passage. He descended, his heart pounding with a terrifying premonition. The air grew heavy, thick with the metallic scent of blood. He emerged into a small concrete room, and there, amidst scattered toys and children's drawings, lay the skeletal remains of Lily Evans and Eric Hawthorne. The manhunt was swift and brutal. The image of the bunker, the chilling tableau of death it held, fueled a collective rage in the people of Blackwater. They found their monster, not in the dark heart of the woods, but in their midst. Henry Mullins. He owned the local hardware store, a quiet, unremarkable man. No one suspected a thing, yet behind the facade of normalcy lurked a depraved mind. The evidence was irrefutable. Fibers from his clothing, soil samples matching his garden, a child's drawing found in his home, signed in Lily's hand. The trial was a media spectacle. The nation watched, transfixed and horrified as the details of Mullins' crimes unfolded. He had lured the children with promises of candy and toys, trapping them in his underground lair. The woods, his hunting ground. The bunker, his macabre playground. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence. DNA, fingerprints, even video footage from a hidden camera inside the bunker. Through it all, Mullins remained unnervingly calm, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. He showed no remorse, his silence more terrifying than any confession. The bunker painted a gruesome picture of Mullins' psyche. Drawings plastered the walls, a child's hand attempting to make sense of a nightmare. Some were innocent, depictions of flowers and sunshine. Others, chillingly dark, depicted monstrous figures and scenes of violence. The toys scattered around were not meant for play, but for control and manipulation. Candy wrappers and empty juice boxes spoke of a twisted kind of nurturing, a way to earn the trust of his victims before snuffing out their innocence. The jury didn't deliberate for long, guilty on all counts. The evidence was overwhelming, and the testimonies of the survivors painted a harrowing picture of the atrocities committed by Henry Mullins. Each juror, with a heavy heart, knew that their decision was the only path to justice. The judge, his voice heavy with disgust and sorrow, sentenced Henry Mullins to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His words echoed through the silent courtroom, a stark reminder of the gravity of Mullins' crimes. The judge's face, etched with the weight of his duty, reflected the collective anguish of the community. As the verdict was read, a collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom. Families clutched each other, tears streaming down their faces, as the realization that justice had been served began to sink in. The tension that had gripped the room for weeks finally began to dissipate. But justice, however swift, couldn't erase the horror. The memories of the victims, the pain and suffering they endured, would forever linger in the hearts of those left behind. The courtroom, though a place of justice, still felt tainted by the darkness of Mullen's actions. Mullins, in a final act of defiance, turned to the families of his victims. His eyes, cold and unrepentant, scanned the room, searching for any sign of weakness. His presence, even in chains, was a chilling reminder of the evil that had once roamed free. "They wanted to stay," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The words, though quiet, carried a sinister weight, sending shivers down the spines of those who heard them. It was a final, twisted attempt to exert control, to leave a lasting scar on the minds of his victims' families. They liked it down there. The basement, a place of unimaginable horror, had become a symbol of Mullins's twisted psyche. His words painted a grotesque picture, one that would haunt the families for years to come. The words, chilling in their matter-of-fact delivery, hung in the air, a final blow to the hearts of those he had shattered. The courtroom, once a place of hope and justice, now felt like a tomb, echoing with the ghosts of Mullen's victims. The families, though relieved by the verdict, knew that the scars of this trial would never fully heal. Blackwater buried its dead. The town, once vibrant and full of life, now seemed to be cloaked in a perpetual state of mourning. The cemetery, with its fresh graves, stood as a stark reminder of the recent tragedies that had befallen this once peaceful community. The swing set where Lily Evans was last seen was dismantled, its cheerful colours now faded and rusted. The laughter of children that once filled the air was replaced by an eerie silence, the metal frame sold for scrap. It was as if the town wanted to erase every trace of that fateful day, hoping that by doing so they could also erase the pain and fear that had taken root in their hearts. The woods, once a place of solace, remained eerily silent. The townsfolk avoided it, their footsteps hesitant and their eyes filled with dread. The dense trees, which once provided a comforting canopy, now seemed to hide unspeakable horrors. Their fear a living thing, palpable in every glance and whispered conversation. The once tight-knit community now found itself fractured, each person haunted by their own memories and fears. A constant reminder of the evil that had lurked beneath the surface of their peaceful community. Life went on, but the scars remained. The town square, once bustling with activity, now felt like a ghost town, with empty streets and melancholic faces. The memory of Lily and Eric, forever young, haunted their dreams. Their laughter, once a source of joy, now echoed like a ghostly reminder of what had been lost. The playground, with its faded colours, stood as a testament to the innocence that had been stolen. The image of Henry Mullins, the man who had brought so much pain to Blackwater, was etched into the minds of the townsfolk. His sinister presence lingered like a dark cloud over the town, the monster hiding in plain sight, a wolf in sheep's clothing. The townsfolk couldn't shake the feeling that they had been deceived, that the evil had been right in front of them all along, served as a chilling reminder that evil could wear a friendly face, that the most dangerous threats often come from those we trust. The unsettling smile of Henry Mullins was a stark contrast to the darkness he harboured within, and that sometimes the darkest monsters lurked not in the shadows, but in the places we least expect. The dark alleyways and shadowy figures were no longer the only things to fear, but in the light of day. The bright sunlight, once a symbol of safety, now seemed to cast long, sinister shadows, reminding the townsfolk that danger could be found even in the most familiar places. Years passed. The fear subsided, replaced by a dull ache of loss. The once vibrant village, now a ghost of its former self, stood as a testament to the passage of time. Seasons changed, leaves fell, and the forest reclaimed what was once its own. The villagers moved on, but the memories lingered, etched into the very fabric of the place. Blackwater Woods remained, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. The trees, ancient and wise, stood tall and unwavering, their branches whispering tales of old. The forest was a living entity, breathing and watching, holding on to the stories of those who had come and gone. The occasional hiker, venturing too close to the heart of the forest, would feel a shiver run down their spine, a primal instinct warning them away. It was as if the forest itself was alive, aware of their presence and urging them to leave. The deeper they went, the stronger the feeling, an unspoken message that they were not welcome. The story of Blackwater became a cautionary tale, whispered around campfires and late-night dinners. Parents would tell their children, hoping to instill a sense of caution and respect for the unknown. Friends would share the tale, each adding their own twist, making it more chilling with each retelling. It became a part of the local folklore, a story that bound the community together in shared fear and curiosity. A reminder that darkness could take root anywhere and that sometimes the most idyllic settings concealed the most sinister of truths. The beauty of the forest was a mask, hiding the darkness that lay beneath. It was a place where light and shadow danced together, creating an ever-changing tapestry of mystery and intrigue. And in the quiet moments, when the wind rustled through the trees, the people of Blackwater could still hear them, the whispers of the lost children forever bound to the woods that had claimed them. The sound was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a haunting reminder of the past. It was as if the forest itself was mourning, its sorrow echoing through the leaves and branches, the whispers of the lost children forever bound to the woods that had claimed them. Their voices, soft and mournful, seemed to blend with the wind, creating a symphony of sorrow. It was a sound that sent chills down the spine, a reminder that the past was never truly gone but lingered on, hidden in the shadows of Blackwater woods.